General Secretary of CND.
Thank you very much. This isn't some complicated economic issue that we're facing. It's actually totally simple. In whose interests is our economy run? And in whose interests is our country's wealth spent? And that is a political question. It's not an economic question at all. Is the wealth produced by this country for the benefit of the majority that produce it, or is it for the minority that wishes to continue to own and control it? And that is the fundamental issue. And it can be dressed up in all kinds of ways, and we've seen the government and other parties jumping through hoops trying to explain it in new jargon. But it is absolutely clear. It's an onslaught by the ruling class, and that may be an old-fashioned term, but I think it still describes the situation best. It's an onslaught by the ruling class under Tory leadership to smash the welfare state and end the process of redistribution of wealth which the welfare state provides. In 1945, the Labour government was brought to power on a landslide victory because it stood for the redistribution of wealth to the people. It stood for health, it stood for homes, education, jobs, pensions, childcare, everything which would bring people out of the poverty and degradation which they had experienced in the 1920s and 1930s, and would bring opportunities, equal opportunities for all. And vast achievements were made for ordinary people as a result. John Rees just spoke of some in the realm of education. But ever since then, the ruling class has sought to reverse that victory, to roll back the welfare state so that they can make profits from people's basic and fundamental needs. And they've sought to reintroduce the free market into the provision of what is and what must remain ours by right. And Thatcher had the first stab at smashing that and demolishing it, and I'm sorry to say that Labour has failed to defend its great achievements. And I appeal to Labour under its new leadership to reclaim its tradition of the redistribution of wealth. And we must not fall for the Tory lies that the state is the great evil. The redistributive state has been the great liberator for millions of people. And the reality is that the Tories want to smash that redistributive state because it's taking wealth out of their hands and spending it on us and other millions of ordinary people. And the great evil is actually to rob ordinary people, to increase the profits of the bankers and the corporations. That is the great evil in our society. But what we don't want the state to do is to spend money on killing and destruction. We don't want billions spent on war, occupation and nuclear weapons. And here, Labour governments, I'm sorry to say, have been just as guilty as the Tories. Both backed the wars on Iraq and Afghanistan. And both are willing to spend £100 billion on British nuclear weapons. Now, we know that the vast majority of the population are against nuclear weapons. They don't even meet the needs, the security needs that we have in the world today, and virtually nobody is trying to pretend that they do. Even the government has now downgraded nuclear risks to a second-level threat, as you can see in its new national security strategy. But still, in spite of recognising that, they insist on wasting billions of pounds on it. Now, I appeal to trade unionists here today. If your union supports nuclear weapons because of the jobs involved, then I urge you and your union to think again. There are a maximum of 7,000 jobs involved in our nuclear weapons system. That is a subsidy of millions of pounds per job per year on those nuclear weapons jobs. That is not a good rate of jobs return by any calculation. And if that money was invested in developing and producing marine energy technologies or other sustainable energy forms, it would not only help solve the problems of climate change, it would also create hundreds of thousands of sustainable jobs. Nuclear weapons production is a dead end in every respect. Our movement must be united against nuclear weapons and united in favour of new sustainable industrial jobs. Every single struggle and every single challenge that we face today is interlinked, whether it's war, nuclear weapons, climate change, jobs, education, health or welfare. And we have to understand that and we have to act upon it. And it all comes down to the choices and priorities that are made in our politics and in our economy. It all comes down to whose interests will prevail. We must be united in the interests of the people. Thank you.